That's 90. So this over here is the pit I dug. I showed this a couple videos ago. I'd been digging it out. I dug all this out by hand in a few days. And I got some gravel spread in it last night and kind of semi-leveled out for now. I got to keep working at that a little bit. But right now, we're expecting about probably close to a foot of snow this week. And so I want to get all this block moved over here before that, because once that happens, we could have a harder time getting in here with the truck. So, but anyways, the plan here is I have all this gravel spread, and what I'm going to do is get it leveled out and compacted good, and then I'm just going to stack concrete block all around this. It's about 8 foot by 20 foot, and the plan is to stack it about 3 blocks high, but I'm about 6 feet away from this wood boiler, and I'm going to dig a little ditch here at some point so I can run some PEX water piping underneath this whole cold frame. I'm just going to coil it up all underneath here. But the plan is to put on top of that probably around a foot of soil, and on top of that's where my seedlings are going to go. And the idea is that radiant heat from that water line is going to rise up through the ground, heat the ground, and the ground will in turn provide thermal mass sufficient enough to heat this cold frame, even through the coldest days. Now, I won't be starting seedlings. In our area, I'll be starting seedlings, the first seedlings, in a couple weeks. And that's cabbages, broccoli, lettuce, things like that. A lot of crops won't be started till March, maybe April. And a lot of stuff doesn't get planted out here till May, because our last frost date isn't until May. So it's not, by March, things are starting to warm a little bit. It's not like right now where we're below 0, occasionally through the night. And and the water line is constantly running between 160 degrees and 180 degrees. Occasionally it drops to 150, occasionally it rises to 195, but only for very short periods of time. So it should be sufficient enough to heat this cold frame. And the way I'm kind of basing this off of, I'm sort of replicating the methodology behind heating hotbeds, traditional hotbeds, that they still use quite often in certain regions. In France they use it all the time now. But the idea is what they typically do, and they used to do this all the time here, and they would basically dig a pit and they would fill it up with fresh manure, usually horse manure, sometimes chicken manure, even a compost can work. And the idea is something that will heat up. And those manures typically would heat up to 150 to 160 degrees. And the idea is that manure would in turn have, maybe 6 inches, 12 inches of soil on top, and the manure would heat that soil up and provide a really nice thermal mass radiant heat. So instead of manure, I'm using really hot water that'll constantly be circulating through fresh from the furnace, and that's the idea. It may get too hot. And then too, during the daytime, I have a lot of, since I'll be using plastic for this year. During the daytime, this will have a lot of heat coming from the sun, coming through that plastic, so that will help a lot too. Honestly, on sunny days, even if the temperature doesn't rise above freezing, I really may not even need the heat from that water line. It's just primarily at night. I'll want it on cloudy days, but yeah, that's the idea behind this whole thing and what I'm building. It may or may not work. It's kind of an experiment here, but I think it's going to work pretty well, and I'm building it for almost free. The only cost I have in this thing, because I was able to scavenge that concrete block, for the wood on top, I'm using all scrap I have around here, and it's a lot of scrap from us building that garage, and I'm even going to be using a couple of logs that I have sitting around as well. I'm going to cut them down and use them. And then I'm also, a lot of the plastic I'm going to be using, I already have greenhouse plastic for my garden, so I won't have to spend money on that. It's 4 years old, but it's still in good shape. There's a couple spots I had to patch, but it'll work. And then the only cost I'll really have is the plumbing, which can be pretty pricey actually. PEX pipe and PEX fittings are expensive, but all things considering, I think it's well worth it, and I won't have a whole lot. But anyways, that's the idea here. You can kind of follow along and see the progress on this thing. It's going to take me a couple weeks. It's already taken me a few days. So, but this video is just going to span those couple weeks, just showing how I built it. So, hope you guys enjoy. So this is the cold frame, sort of closer to the finished state now. It's what I did here. We had a lot of rain the last couple of days, and before that rain I basically wrapped this whole thing in plastic. And you can see there I ran a couple 2x4s in the middle to hold the plastic up, and then just ran some plastic over top and stapled it, and then I have a couple furring strips on the ends just to hold it down when it's windy. So anyways, the water line comes in right here. It goes underneath that block there, and I have it coiled up all underneath the frame. The water's running about 175 to 195 most of the time, but the water line runs from underneath the furnace over there all the way underneath. I need to fill in with dirt more here because it's settled with all this rain. And that's from Zeke. I don't know what he was building. But anyways, it goes underneath there. My dad and I dug a hole, and my dad helped me. We put this plumbing inside here. This is the return line. This is return water, and this is the water going out of the furnace. So this comes out of the furnace, usually 190 degrees, and goes all the way down to our garage, and then all the way back up through this return line. And then it goes right back in the furnace and comes back out on this side later on. Now, on the going out line, I have some water split off. Some of the water will be diverted and go down into this line, and this line runs through the cold frame. And then it comes back into this return line. And it's been working really well. I can adjust the temperature of this whole thing with this valve. I can adjust the flow rate, which, believe it or not, does adjust the temperature in there drastically. It was about 40 degrees this morning, and about halfway on it was 80 inside, which is a little bit too warm. So actually it's working very, very well. And I'm not really noticing us burning any more wood than normal. So I'd say it's doing pretty well. But that's going to be it for this video. I got the garden plowed up last week. I'll probably be running through with a disc. Hopefully this week. It might be a little bit longer than that. With the amount of rain we've had, the soil's pretty saturated. But anyways, hopefully I'll be getting some cool season crops planted in the next few weeks out there. That's my plan. I need to get my amendments in still. There'll be lots more videos to come on that, so, and updates on the cold frame as well. So if you guys like the video, just make sure you like it and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.